Welcome to Wendy and Ria's Art. My name's Wendy and today I'll be showing you the creation of my newest mixed media abstract called Evergreen. I hope you enjoy the journey. So I put down a textured layer of gesso, just using a palette knife, just moving it around just to make some interesting lines and just to have something to put the colour down on. Okay, here I'll be dropping on two colours of ink, and they are black and brown, Liquitex inks, acrylic inks. So I wet the palette first just with a spray bottle and putting down some drops of the two inks. I added the brown just for a bit of earthiness, but I think the black probably wins out. So just getting some drops and some flow down. Now I'm using a handmade brush by Elizabeth's Shower Act, I think it is. I love this brush, especially for the first layer. Makes some beautiful lines and texture. So I just move this through the inks just to move them round and to lay down the first few darks. Just running it over the side there. And that's the first layer. So moving on to the second layer, I'm now using various other inks. Some of them are Liquitex acrylic ink, some of them are Ranger alcohol inks. And I'm just using a big variety of greens, mostly greens, a couple of browns, a few yellows, I think one blue sneaks in there. So literally I'm just wanting lots of blotches and just interest in the bottom layer basically. And then I give it a good spray with the water, just trying to get a few drips going. It was a very hot day that day. It dried pretty quickly, but yeah, I just wanted to get some greens and browns and just lines and drops in the background. So now I'm using, what's it called, a catalyst wedge to apply the paint. So I started with the titanium buff in that upper section, and what I liked about that was it was nice and translucent, so I could actually, transparent, so I could see through and still see all the work that I'd done underneath, which was really nice. Okay, so now I'm moving on to some greens, medium green, a darker green. In this layer, all I'm trying to do is just to establish where the colours will be, where the lighter areas will be and where the darker areas will be, and just trying to get the canvas covered with paint basically in this layer here. So I've got 3 different shades of green, or actually I've got 4. A very dark one, which I don't think I use very much, and then you could just see that lighter green go on then, and then there's 2 mediums. Yeah. The good thing about the catalyst wedge is you can put it on and then you can scrape it back to get a bit more lightness in the colour. So you can have it sort of full strength, or you can sort of drag it back to make it lighter. Now here I've just applied a bit of titanium buff with a tiny bit of green in it, just to give a bit more, another lighter area. So just rubbing off that bit there so I can keep a bit of the black showing through. I think it's very hard, it's very easy to lose your darks when you're doing this, so yeah, just trying to maintain a few dark areas there. Another lighter area going in over there with a bit of green in it. So it's important to get your mid colours down, but also make sure you've got your light areas established and get a sense of where your darker areas will be. Keeping in mind when I add drips later on that the drips are better off going over the light areas. That way you get the full colour rather than it getting taken over by the colour underneath. Okay, so now I'm moving on to my stenciling. I wanted a lot of pebbly stone rock type formations in this one, being a nature abstract. I love this stencil. It's got very small areas and then the bigger ones as well. So I'm using a creamy coloured spray paint here. I'll list all of the supplies underneath, but yeah, I really love this. And what I started to do was, once I got my areas established, I then started to link them together with some of the smaller pebbles there. Okay, I apologise now because my head's and body are basically covering the area. What I'm doing is just applying a wash of golden quinacridone nickel azo gold to the pebble areas, to the stenciled areas. I've now realised that I need to move the tripod to the opposite side. But here I'm actually, the ones that come closer to me, I'm actually starting to add a few colours into the bigger pebbles. I was using the quinacridone nickel azo gold and then adding some drops of green. I think I added a few drops of sepia as well, just to give the pebbles at the bottom a bit more definition. Okay, now I've got a brush that I love. It's attached to a long stick and I've dipped it in the ink, and I love doing this part. It's just organic lines with the ink. You can't control the paintbrush. It's on a long stick, so it's sort of, you just guide it and it goes where it wants to go. So I really enjoy this part. Okay, so now I've got a black fine line pen, and I'm actually just drawing, my head's in the way again, but just drawing some thinner black lines. So I've got the thicker black lines. Now for variety, I'm putting some thinner black lines, and I'm just drying that. Sometimes with the ink you can get some nice drips and things going, so. Okay, now I've got Neocolor IIs, and I'm just doing some mark making. I normally do the mark making on the first layer, but with all of the inks in the bottom layer, that was sufficient to add some interest from below. So I just ran those across. Now I'm back to some more stenciling, some sort of fern shapes with a green spray paint. Liquitex acrylic spray paint. I love these ones. They're really nice. So I try and put probably three lots at least two anyway. Yeah, if I put a stencil on, I don't put it once, I'll have it at least twice. Sorry for my back again. Okay, now. Alright, so now, as I said, it's easy to lose your darks. I found I was losing my darks, so I've just got that big brush out again with some darker, the really dark green and a bit of black, but just trying to get some darks back in those areas again. It's important to have the darks because they are what provides the contrast for you. The darks against the lights and the other colours really help to guide the eye around the painting. That's why I tend to do my thicker black lines, because I include them from all parts of the painting. Okay, so I'm just touching up between the stencils there, just with some darker paint to get that in between some of those fern leaves. Just smudging that out a bit, the dark areas. Okay, so now, what am I doing? Okay, so the area there where I got the drips from the ink, it looked like a bit of a root nest at the bottom of my plant, so a bit of soil and roots. So I'm just adding with some sepia paint, just some more fine line roots. I thought that was really cool. It was exactly in the right spot. Very unplanned. Okay, so now I'm going over with another layer of the Titan Buff and the greens, just trying to knock back some of those marks and have them a bit in the background, including some of the stencils. So once I've done that, I usually go over it again so that it's not all on the top layer. Some will be just hiding through from beneath. So generally just going over the whole canvas again with another layer of paint, keeping it fairly transparent so that I can see all the hard work I've put in so far. Yeah, it's up to you. You can use more opaque paints if you want to cover things up, and the more transparent ones if you still want things showing through. I definitely wanted all of the layers from underneath to be visible. Yep, so using the wedge, again, I can use it to scrape away paint. I can make marks with it. I can make areas of paint more transparent, and I find it a very easy way to move the paint around. Okay, adding some greens, the light green. And in this layer you can change the position of your colours. You can move them, you know, make more of them, less of them, move another colour in over the top. This is the part where I would, you know, balance out my colours and make sure I had them all where I wanted them. Okay, so we're getting ready here to do some drips. So I've got some green paint down there. I'm just giving it a bit of a spray. The paint's quite thick, so it's making quite thick runs. Just wiping that little bit up there. I didn't want it to be quite that long, so you can sort of lay it flat to stop those drips going any further. And now I'm doing some drips with some fluid paint, Quinacridone Nicolazo Gold by Golden, and it flows really beautifully. So you can see the difference there, many more little drips coming down, and it's such a beautiful colour. Just one hint, only ever do that over light colours underneath. If I did that over the green, the paint would look brown. Fine if you want it to look brown, but if you don't and you want that beautiful orange colour to come through, it needs to be over a light one. Okay, so I just trying to think what I'm doing there, just making a few small changes, adding a bit more buff in, making some marks on the buff. I'm going to be doing some drips down in that top left-hand corner there, so that's why I was putting the cream back in. Okay, some more green drips, a bit darker this time. Okay, so I added a little bit of water to that paint before I put it down, and it made it flow a little bit better. If you use the fluid paints, you don't really need to do that. I love drips, so I usually have 3 to 4 areas of drips in my paint abstract artworks. So now I'm just putting some dots. I love circles and dots as well. Drips and dots, that's me. So I'm just using probably, what am I doing there? It's probably a Liquitex paint marker to make those marks. What I'll do in future is try and get the camera closer to where I'm making those dots and things so that you can see better. This is a learning curve for me. I haven't done any videos for about 18 months, so yeah, I'm just getting back into it again. Starting to get cracking. So, okay, so some of the dots that I do are with the Neocolor IIs, and I think this is them. So what I do is I just put the tip in the water, and it makes a huge difference to the vibrance of the colour. Because they're water soluble crayons. So yeah, just a little hint there. So now I've mixed some gel medium or gloss gel, sorry, with some yellow, and I'm adding the wattle through the stencil. And by doing that, it gives that wattle a bit of texture and makes it stand up off the canvas. I did find when it dried, I had to go over the top of that with a bit more yellow and then a little bit of yellow ink, but was happy with the result. So another area of wattle down there. I just wanted the yellow to pop against the green. I decided to do that instead of putting a yellow section on the artwork. Okay, so here's the second lot of Quin Nickel Azo Gold drips. As you can see, it flows pretty well. Doesn't need me to spray much water on that at all. So using the fluid paint for the drips works a lot better, but at the top with the green, you can see I just added a little bit of water to make it a little bit more runny, and that worked fine as well. So adding some more dots again with a paint marker, Liquitex paint marker. And that's the final product. So I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. I certainly enjoyed doing the painting. It's the first time I've really used green as a main colour, and I really love it. And I've added the orange and the yellow in the drips and the circles and mark making just to bring those colours out. I established a few areas of dark, and again that black ink just sort of takes your eye around the page quite nice, around the canvas quite nicely. So now I've just included some close-ups of the various areas so you can get a better look at what I've actually done and where the dots went. That's the root section. You can see some Neocolor orange dots, Neocolor yellow dots, and then the paint marker, that's the wattle. You can see how it stands up a little bit. Some drips, and you can see all the layers from underneath showing through, even from that very first layer, which is really nice. And a bit of the drips, a bit more wattle, and some of the stencil work there, the ink work. Yeah, so as I said, I'm overall really pleased with how it turned out, and keen to get on to the next one. So make sure you hit subscribe and like, and see you again.